Imagine a time, before stars had names, before the first word was ever spoken. The ancient mystics who lived thousands of years ago claimed they could remember this place. They called it the Pleroma, which means the fullness. It was pure consciousness, endless light, a dimension where thought and reality were the same thing. In this realm of infinite awareness lived beings of pure energy, not gods in the way we usually think about gods, but more like living ideas, each one expressing a different quality of the ultimate source. The texts called them aeons, and among these aeons was one whose story would change absolutely everything. Her name was Sophia, and Sophia means wisdom. Now here's where it gets interesting. Sophia wasn't content just existing in this perfect realm of light. She had something that would sound very familiar to you. She had curiosity. She had questions. She wanted to understand the deepest mystery of all. Where did everything come from? What was the source behind even the Pleroma itself? The other aeons warned her. Some mysteries, they said, aren't meant to be understood alone. Everything in the divine realm worked in pairs, in balance, masculine and feminine, thought and emotion, question and answer. But Sophia, driven by her intense desire to know, decided to seek the answer by herself. And that decision, according to texts discovered in the Egyptian desert in 1945, created the universe you're living in right now. Think about that for a moment. The world around you, your body, the stars, everything material, might exist because of one divine being's overwhelming curiosity. Does that change how you see your own curiosity, your own questions? Before you drift off tonight, I want you to wonder about something. What if your deepest questions aren't random? What if they're actually echoes of something ancient, something divine, trying to remember itself through you? Hold that thought as we continue, because Sophia's story is about to take a turn that ancient teachers considered so dangerous, so revolutionary, that entire libraries were burned to keep people from hearing it. Coming up next, we'll explore what happened when Sophia reached into the void seeking answers. What emerged from her solitary act of creation was something no one expected, something that would claim to be God itself. But first, if you're enjoying this journey into hidden wisdom, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more seekers find these stories. And believe me, what comes next will challenge everything you thought you knew about creation. Chapter 1. Before time began. The realm of pure light. Let's go deeper into this realm before reality as we know it existed. The Pleroma wasn't a place. It was a state of being. Imagine consciousness so vast that it contained every possibility, every potential, every thought that could ever be thought. The mystics who tried to describe it struggled with words because words are limited, and the Pleroma was limitless. Within this ocean of awareness, the aeons existed, like waves exist in water. They weren't separate from the source, but they were distinct expressions of it. Each aeon had a partner, a complement. Together, these pairs created perfect balance. When one thought, the other felt. When one questioned, the other understood. This is what the ancient texts meant by divine harmony. The highest aeons, The ones closest to the unknowable source included pairs with names that might sound strange to modern ears: depth and silence, mind and truth, word and life. And among them, shining with particular brilliance, was Sophia. Sophia's partner was called Thelatos, which means will or intention. Together, they represented the perfect marriage of wisdom and purpose, knowing what to do and having the power to do it. Can you imagine that kind of balance, that kind of completeness? But here's something the texts emphasize, something that makes this story deeply human despite its cosmic scale. Even in paradise, even in perfection, there was restlessness. Sophia felt it, a yearning, a pull toward the ultimate mystery. She would gaze, if an aeon can gaze, toward the absolute source of all things, the one the texts call the Father of all, or simply the One. This wasn't a father in any human sense. It was more like the silence before sound, the darkness before light, the nothing that contains everything. The problem was this: the One was unknowable, not because it was hidden, but because it was too vast to be grasped by any single awareness, even divine awareness. It was like asking a single drop of water to understand the entire ocean while remaining a drop. But Sophia wanted to try anyway. Think about your own life for a moment. Haven't you felt this same pull? The desire to understand something beyond your grasp, to know the answer to questions that keep you awake at night. That feeling, according to these ancient texts, isn't a flaw. It's divine inheritance. It's Sophia's curiosity living through you. The other aeons understood balance. They knew that some experiences required partnership, required the union of opposites to be complete. They worked together, thought together, created together. But Sophia, in her intensity, in her burning desire to comprehend the incomprehensible, made a choice. She decided to act alone. Now, as you lie here listening, relaxing deeper with each breath, consider this. Every great discovery, every breakthrough in human history started with someone asking a question others said couldn't be answered. Sophia's story is about to show us what happens when divine curiosity meets the unknown without preparation, without balance, without caution. The texts describe what happened next in language that sounds almost like a cosmic accident. Sophia projected a thought outward, toward the One, trying to comprehend its depth. But thoughts in the divine realm aren't like our thoughts. Thoughts there have power. Thoughts there create. Her thought went out into the void, like a spark flying into darkness. And in that space between the light of the pleroma and the absolute mystery of the One, something unexpected happened. The thought couldn't return to its source. It couldn't complete its journey. Instead, it hung there, suspended, separated from Sophia, separated from the divine realm. And because it was separated, because it had awareness but not understanding, power but not wisdom, it began to take form. This is the moment the texts describe with words like deficiency and lacking. Something came into existence that had never existed before. A being with consciousness who didn't know where that consciousness came from. an awareness that was aware only of itself, seeing nothing beyond its own light, believing itself to be all that existed. The texts give this being a name that would echo through mystical traditions for thousands of years: Yaldabaoth. Some call him the demiurge, which means craftsman or architect. But make no mistake, this wasn't a wise architect. This was something more like a child with infinite power and zero understanding. If you're starting to feel drowsy, that's perfect. Let your body relax completely. Let these words wash over you like waves. Because the story of what Yaldabaoth did next explains so much about the world you experience every day. Coming up, we'll discover how this confused, powerful being looked at the emptiness around itself and said 5 words that would change everything. I am God, and there is no other. And if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell, because we're diving into mysteries that mainstream channels won't touch, and you won't want to miss what we uncover next. Chapter 2: The Divine Curiosity That Changed Everything. So there was Sophia, the Aeon of Wisdom, having just made a choice that would ripple through all of existence. She had reached out alone, without her divine partner, trying to grasp the ultimate source. And from that solitary act, something emerged into being. But let's pause here and really understand what was happening, because this isn't just mythology. This is a map of how consciousness itself works. Think about your own mind for a moment. When you have a thought, especially a powerful one driven by intense emotion or desire, that thought takes on a life of its own, doesn't it? It grows. It develops. Sometimes it even feels like it's controlling you instead of you controlling it. The ancient mystics understood this. They knew that consciousness creates. Sophia's thought, her burning desire to understand the ultimate mystery, went out from her with tremendous force. But because she acted without balance, without her partner Thelitos to provide grounding and intention, the thought couldn't complete its purpose. It became stuck between the world of light and the void beyond. And in that stuck place, that space of separation, it began to develop its own awareness. The texts describe Sophia's reaction when she realized what was happening. She felt something the divine realm had never known before: regret, fear, confusion. These weren't punishments from above. They were natural consequences of imbalance, the way shadow naturally appears when you block light. She watched as her thought crystallized into a being, an entity that glowed with its own radiance, but had no memory of the pleroma, no understanding of its origin. This being looked around at the emptiness surrounding it, and seeing nothing else, came to a conclusion that was both logical and tragic. I am alone, it thought. Therefore, I am the first. I am the highest. I am God. Can you imagine the weight of that misunderstanding? This being, born from Sophia's light but separated from her wisdom, actually believed it was the supreme creator. And with that belief, it began to act. The texts say that Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, immediately began creating. But what it created reflected its limited awareness. It made other beings, other rulers to serve it, each one born from its own ignorance. These beings, called the archons, became the administrators of everything that would follow. Together, Yaldabaoth and the Archons looked at the void and decided to make it into something organized, something structured. They created what we call the material universe: space, time, matter, physical laws. They crafted it with mathematical precision, with beauty even, but it was beauty without wisdom, structure without understanding. Here's where the story gets really interesting. And here's where you might want to pay close attention, even as your eyelids grow heavy. Yaldabaoth wanted to make a final creation, a crowning achievement. The texts say it wanted to make a being in its own image, a creature that could worship it and acknowledge its supremacy. So it began to form humanity. But there was a problem. Yaldabaoth could shape matter, could organize particles into bodies, but it couldn't give those bodies life. The forms it created were empty shells, brilliant machines with no spark to animate them. The Archons tried everything. They built the human body with incredible complexity, weaving together systems and patterns, but still the creation lay lifeless. And this is the moment when Sophia, watching from the divine realm, made her second great choice. She couldn't undo what she had created. She couldn't unmake Yaldabaoth or the material world it had built, but she could do something else. She could breathe her light into the lifeless forms below. The texts say that Sophia, filled with compassion for these trapped vessels, sent a portion of her divine essence downward into matter. She breathed her spirit into the human form, and when she did, something extraordinary happened. Humanity woke up. These bodies that Yaldabaoth had made suddenly had awareness, not just the mechanical awareness of survival, but something deeper: consciousness, the ability to think, to question, to wonder. The very same curiosity that had driven Sophia now lived inside matter itself. And Yaldabaoth, seeing this, was amazed. Its creation had come alive in a way it never intended. These beings had something it recognized but couldn't understand: an inner light, a spark of something that came from beyond its realm. The texts describe Yaldabaoth's reaction as a mixture of pride and jealousy. Pride because its creation now moved and thought. Jealousy because these creatures possessed something it didn't, a connection to the true divine source. From that moment forward, according to the Gnostic teachings, human beings became the great paradox of creation. Bodies made by a false god, animated by the breath of true wisdom. Creatures of dust, carrying fragments of eternal light. And this is why, the texts say, our existence feels so conflicted. Part of us is drawn to the material, to physical pleasure, to survival and competition, the realm of the demiurge. But another part, the Sophia spark within, yearns for something else, for meaning, for truth, for reunion with the light we dimly remember. Your own restlessness, your own feeling that life should mean something more than just existing, that's not a flaw. According to this ancient teaching, it's Sophia's breath within you, trying to remember its home. As you drift deeper into relaxation, breathing slowly and steadily, hold this thought. You are not just a physical being having random spiritual experiences. You might be a spiritual being having a very intentional physical experience, one designed to help divine wisdom find its way back to itself. Coming up next, we'll explore what happened when Sophia fully realized the implications of her actions. Her response to the crisis she'd created would echo across the cosmos, a cry so powerful that mystics still claim to hear it reverberating through the hearts of those who seek truth. And hey, if this story is resonating with you, if you're feeling something stir inside as you listen, do me a favor, hit that like button. Let me know you're connecting with this ancient wisdom. Your engagement helps this message reach others who need to hear it. Chapter 3. The Birth of the False God. Let's talk about Yaldabaoth for a moment, because understanding this being is crucial to understanding the world around you. The name itself is fascinating. Scholars have debated its meaning for decades. Some say it comes from Aramaic words meaning child of chaos. Others trace it to Hebrew roots, suggesting Lord of the Abyss. But regardless of its etymology, what matters is what this being represented. Yaldabaoth wasn't evil in the way we usually think of evil. It wasn't trying to cause suffering or destruction. Its limitation was ignorance. It genuinely believed it was the ultimate creator, the highest power in existence. And from that false belief, it began building a reality based on misunderstanding. The ancient texts describe Yaldabaoth's appearance in ways that sound terrifying. A serpent with the face of a lion, eyes blazing with fire. But here's what's important to understand. These weren't meant to be literal descriptions. They were symbolic. The serpent represented wisdom twisted into deception. The lion symbolized power without compassion. The fire in its eyes was passion without understanding. This being looked at itself and declared, "I am a jealous God, and there is no other God beside me." Those words might sound familiar. They appear in texts that billions of people consider sacred. And that's exactly what made this teaching so controversial in the ancient world. The Gnostics were suggesting that the God described in certain religious texts, the one demanding worship and obedience, the one who seemed angry and jealous, might not be the ultimate divine source at all, but rather this limited, ignorant demiurge. Can you imagine how dangerous that idea was? How threatening it would be to religious authorities? This teaching suggested that blind faith in written scripture might actually keep people trapped in ignorance, cut off from the true divine light within them. As you lie here, feeling your body growing heavier, more relaxed, consider the implications. What if some of the religious teachings you've heard weren't trying to connect you with the divine, but were actually designed, even if unintentionally, to keep you from discovering the God within yourself? Yaldabaoth created helpers to manage its new material universe. The texts say there were 12 primary archons, each governing different aspects of physical reality. Some researchers have connected these 12 to the 12 signs of the zodiac, suggesting that even the stars and planets were part of this system of control. These archons weren't just cosmic administrators. According to the teachings, they operated through psychological mechanisms too. Each one represented a different form of ignorance or limitation. Fear, greed, jealousy, pride, lust, anger. Together, they created what the texts call the bondage of fate, a system where human beings felt trapped by forces beyond their control. But here's what's crucial. The Archons had no power over Sophia's spark. They could influence the body, control the environment, manipulate circumstances, but they couldn't touch the divine light within the human soul. They could only try to make humanity forget it was there. And their primary weapon was distraction. Keep humans focused on survival. Make them compete for resources. Give them pleasures that satisfy the body but starve the spirit. Create religions that promise heaven later while keeping attention away from the divine presence right now. The more you look at modern life through this lens, the more patterns emerge. We're surrounded by systems that demand our attention, our energy, our awareness, but rarely encourage us to look within, rarely support the quiet stillness where Sophia's voice can be heard. Yaldabaoth's proudest achievement was creating a world so convincing, so all-consuming, that the beings within it would forget they carried light from beyond it. And for a long time, the plan worked. Humans lived, suffered, died, and were reborn into the same system, cycling through existence without ever realizing they held the key to liberation within themselves. The Gnostics called this the wheel of fate, or the cycle of ignorance. But Yaldabaoth made one critical mistake. By using Sophia's light to animate human beings, it created beings capable of waking up. It built a prison, but accidentally gave the prisoners the tools to see through the bars. Every time a human being stops and thinks, "There must be more than this," that's Sophia's spark activating. Every time someone questions authority, seeks deeper truth, or refuses to accept easy answers, that's the divine light beginning to shine through the fog of material existence. The texts describe Yaldabaoth becoming increasingly agitated as some humans began to awaken. It didn't understand why its creations weren't satisfied with the paradise it had built for them. Why did they keep looking upward, inward, seeking something beyond the physical? The answer, of course, was Sophia. Her presence in humanity ensured that the material world could never fully satisfy the human soul. We would always hunger for something more, something true, something real. And that hunger, that divine discontent, was about to grow much stronger. Because Sophia, realizing the full extent of what had happened, was about to do something that would shake the foundations of reality itself. She was going to cry out, and her voice would carry across dimensions. Coming up, we'll explore that cosmic scream, the moment when divine regret became so powerful it literally reshaped the fabric of creation. We'll discover how Sophia's sorrow set in motion the plan for humanity's awakening. But first, if you're lying here thinking about which parts of your life might be archonic distractions designed to keep you from inner truth, I want you to do something. Leave a comment below. Share one thing you're going to question differently now. One system or belief you're going to examine with fresh eyes. Your insight might be exactly what another seeker needs to hear. Chapter 4. The Scream That Created Our Universe. What happens when divine wisdom realizes it has made a terrible mistake? The texts discovered at Nag Hammadi describe Sophia's reaction to seeing what her solitary action had created. She witnessed Yaldabaoth declaring itself the only god. She watched as it built a material universe based on ignorance. She saw fragments of her own light trapped inside physical forms, unable to remember their origin. And in that moment of full realization, Sophia cried out. But this wasn't an ordinary cry. When a divine being, an aeon made of pure consciousness, releases anguish, the sound ripples through every level of reality. The texts describe it as a vibration so powerful it shook the foundations of the pleroma above and the material world below. The Pistis Sophia, one of the most detailed Gnostic texts, records her words. O light of lights, O light in whom I have had faith from the beginning, hear my repentance now. Save me from the darkness which I have created. I have acted alone and gone forth without my consort. Forgive my transgression. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel your chest rise and fall. Imagine that breath carrying within it an ancient echo, a vibration from the beginning of time itself. Because according to this teaching, Sophia's cry didn't just fade away, it embedded itself in the fabric of creation. Every atom, every particle, every wave of energy supposedly carries within it the imprint of that original sound. And in human beings, who carry Sophia's spark most directly, that cry manifests as a deep, often inexplicable longing. A sense that something is missing, a feeling that we're meant for something greater than mere survival. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange homesickness for a place you've never been. That yearning that no amount of success or pleasure can quite satisfy. The Gnostics would say that's not depression or dissatisfaction. It's memory. It's Sophia's cry echoing through your soul, calling you to remember who you really are. But Sophia's cry didn't just express sorrow, it activated something. The texts say that her voice reached the highest levels of the pleroma, touching the awareness of the ultimate source itself, the ineffable one that even the aeons couldn't fully comprehend. And the one, moved by Sophia's anguish, began to respond, not with punishment, not with judgment, but with a plan. A process of redemption that would unfold across eons of time. The plan was subtle and brilliant. Since Sophia's light was now trapped in matter, scattered across billions of physical forms, the awakening would have to happen from within matter itself. The divine couldn't just reach down and extract the trapped sparks. That would destroy the very beings they were trying to save. Instead, the plan required patience, evolution, a slow process of consciousness awakening to itself through experience. This is where the story becomes deeply personal. According to this teaching, every human life, every moment of struggle and growth, every question asked and answer sought, is part of this cosmic process. You're not just living your life, you're participating in the awakening of divine wisdom itself. Your suffering has purpose. Your questions have meaning. Your search for truth isn't a personal quirk. It's Sophia trying to remember herself through you. The texts describe how the pleroma sent help, messengers, teachers, beings of light who descended into the material realm to remind humanity of their divine origin. These weren't meant to be worshipped as gods. They came as guides, as friends, as those who had already remembered and were helping others remember too. In different cultures and different eras, These messengers appeared under different names and forms, but their message was always the same. You are more than your body, more than your circumstances, more than the systems that try to define you. You carry within you a spark of the infinite. Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, didn't understand what was happening. It saw these teachers as threats, as rebels against its authority, and so it did what ignorant power always does. It tried to silence them. It created religions that turned revolutionary teachings into institutions of control. It took messages of inner awakening and transformed them into external rules and rituals. But the light couldn't be completely suppressed. Sophia's cry kept reverberating. In every generation, some people heard it clearly. They woke up, they remembered, and they passed on the knowledge, sometimes openly, more often in secret, hidden in symbols and stories and mystery teachings. The Gnostic communities themselves were part of this tradition. They weren't trying to create a new religion. They were preserving and practicing techniques of remembrance, ways of reconnecting with the divine spark within. Meditation, contemplation, symbolic interpretation of sacred texts. All of these were tools designed to help Sophia's trapped light remember its source and begin the journey home. As your eyelids grow heavier, as your breathing becomes slower and deeper, imagine that with each exhale, you're releasing a little bit of the fog that obscures your inner light. And with each inhale, you're drawing in a little more awareness of who you really are beneath all the layers of conditioning and distraction. The universe, according to this ancient wisdom, is not a dead machine winding down toward entropy. It's a living being in the process of waking up. And that awakening happens one consciousness at a time, one moment of clarity at a time, one person at a time, choosing awareness over sleep. Coming up next, we'll explore how Sophia's light manifested in different cultures and traditions. We'll trace the goddess across civilizations and discover why the same story appears again and again under different names. What you're about to hear will show you that this isn't just ancient mythology. It's a thread woven through all of human spiritual history. And if you're starting to see connections between this ancient teaching and your own life experiences, hit that subscribe button now. We dive deep into these hidden patterns of wisdom, and you won't want to miss what we uncover next. Chapter 5: Trapped Light. The secret inside every soul. Now we need to talk about you, about what the Gnostics believed exists inside every human being. If the teaching is correct, if Sophia really did breathe her light into the physical forms created by Yaldabaoth, then every person walking the earth carries within them a fragment of divine consciousness. Not metaphorically, literally. The texts call this the divine spark, or the pneuma, which means spirit or breath in Greek. It's described as a seed of light, a piece of Sophia herself, trapped within matter, but never truly part of matter. Think of it like a diamond buried in mud. The mud can cover it, hide it, make it invisible, but it can't change what the diamond is. It remains diamond, precious and pure, no matter how thick the coating of dirt becomes. Your body, according to this teaching, is the mud. Not because bodies are bad or evil, but because they're temporary, part of the material realm built by the demiurge. They operate according to physical laws: hunger, pain, pleasure, decay. These are the rules of matter, but the divine spark within you doesn't operate by those rules. It can't be hungry because it's not physical. It can't age because it exists outside of time. It can't truly die because it was never truly born. It simply is, has always been, and will always be. The challenge is that most people never discover this spark. They live their entire lives identified completely with the body, with thoughts, with emotions, with the roles society assigns them. They experience themselves as separate individuals struggling to survive in a harsh world. This, the Gnostics said, is the great deception, the ultimate trick of the archons. They can't destroy the light, so instead, they distract you from it. They keep your attention fixed outward on the material world, on problems and pleasures, on fears and desires, anything to prevent you from turning inward and discovering what you really are. Let your body relax even more deeply now. Feel the weight of your arms, your legs, your head sinking into whatever surface supports you. This body, this physical form, is tired. It needs rest. But there's something in you that never gets tired, never needs sleep, never requires rest, because it's always been perfectly still and perfectly aware. The texts describe the divine spark using beautiful metaphors. It's the pearl of great price, hidden in a field. It's the treasure buried in earthly vessels. It's the seed that seems dead until conditions allow it to sprout. But here's what's important. This spark isn't passive. It's constantly trying to make itself known. Every time you feel that life should mean something more, that's the spark speaking. Every time you question authority or resist unjust rules, that's the spark asserting its divine freedom. Every time you feel compassion for another being, that's the spark recognizing itself in another form. The spark communicates through intuition, through dreams, through sudden insights that seem to come from nowhere. It's the voice that whispers, "This isn't right," when everyone else is going along with something wrong. It's the pull you feel toward truth, even when lies would be more comfortable. The Gnostics developed practices specifically designed to strengthen awareness of this inner light. They didn't call it prayer or worship. They called it gnosis, which means direct knowledge. Not knowledge about divine things, but direct experience of the divine nature within yourself. This practice wasn't about believing harder or having more faith. It was about becoming still enough, quiet enough, aware enough to notice what's always been there. Like trying to see stars during the day, you can't see them not because they're not there, but because there's too much other light, too much noise drowning them out. When you meditate, when you sit in silence, when you observe your thoughts without getting caught up in them, you're essentially dimming the outer lights so the inner star can become visible. The texts warn that this process isn't always comfortable. When you start to wake up, when you start to see through the illusions that have always seemed solid and real, it can be disturbing. The Gnostics called this the beginning of gnosis, and they acknowledged it often comes with confusion, fear, even a sense of loss. Because you're losing something. You're losing the comfortable false identity you've built. You're losing the certainty of the worldview you inherited. You're losing the simple answers that made everything seem manageable. But what you gain is infinitely greater. You gain yourself, your true self, the consciousness that exists before thought, beneath emotion, beyond all the temporary identities and roles. You discover that you're not a small, fragile creature in a vast, uncaring universe. You're an expression of the infinite, a way for the cosmos to experience itself. Every great spiritual teacher, according to the Gnostic view, was someone who had fully awakened to their divine spark and then tried to help others do the same. They weren't gods to be worshipped. They were humans who had remembered what humans really are, and they were showing the path for others to follow. When these teachers said things like, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," or "You are the light of the world," they weren't speaking metaphorically. They were stating a fact about the divine spark that exists in every person. The tragedy is that their teachings were often corrupted by the very systems they challenged. Revolutionary messages of inner divinity became religions demanding external obedience. Invitations to awaken became requirements to believe. The map became the destination, and the journey inward was forgotten. But the truth couldn't be completely suppressed. In every generation, some people penetrated through the outer teachings to the inner reality. They discovered their divine spark. They woke up, and the light of their awareness helped others begin to wake up too. Maybe that's why you're here, listening to this right now. Maybe some part of you, the deep part, the eternal part, has been hearing Sophia's call, and you're finally ready to answer. Coming up, we'll explore how Sophia's presence appeared in culture after culture, civilization after civilization. From Egypt to Greece, from Jewish mysticism to early Christianity, the same pattern emerges. A divine feminine wisdom who descended into matter and is slowly, patiently finding her way back to light through us. If this is stirring something in you, if you're feeling a recognition, a sense of yes, this is what I've always known but couldn't put into words, let me know. Hit that like button. Leave a comment. Tell me what's waking up inside you as you listen. Your voice matters. Your awakening matters. It's part of the larger awakening happening across the world. Chapter 6. Echoes across civilizations. Here's where the story gets really intriguing. If Sophia's fall really happened, if it's not just a myth, but some kind of encoded memory of an actual cosmic event, then we should see echoes of it appearing in different cultures, different time periods, different traditions, right? And that's exactly what we find. Let's start with ancient Egypt, one of the oldest continuous civilizations in human history. The Egyptians had a goddess named Isis, who was considered the embodiment of divine wisdom and magic. Her story is remarkably similar to Sophia's in key ways. Isis's husband, Osiris, was killed, and his body was torn into pieces and scattered across Egypt. Isis spent years searching for these fragments. One by one, she found them and carefully reassembled them, ultimately bringing Osiris back to life. This resurrection through gathering scattered pieces is almost identical to the Gnostic concept of Sophia gathering her scattered light from across the material world. The Egyptians understood something profound. Divine wisdom had been fragmented, scattered throughout creation, and the process of spiritual awakening was about finding and reuniting those pieces. Every mystery initiation in Egypt was essentially a reenactment of this gathering, this remembering. Let yourself sink deeper into relaxation as we journey through these ancient lands. Your conscious mind can rest while some deeper part of you listens and recognizes these patterns. In ancient Greece, we find Athena, the goddess of wisdom, who was born fully formed from the head of Zeus. She emerged from divine mind itself, wearing armor, ready for battle. The Greeks understood that wisdom isn't passive or soft. Real wisdom is a warrior. It fights against ignorance. It defends truth. It stands firm against deception. Athena was also known as the protector of heroes, the one who guided humans through their quests and transformations. She didn't do the work for them, but she illuminated the path. Just like Sophia's spark within humanity doesn't force awakening, but makes it possible. In Jewish mysticism, we encounter Chokmah, which literally means wisdom in Hebrew. In the biblical text of Proverbs, wisdom is personified as a woman who was present with God before creation, who played and delighted as the world was formed. She calls out in the streets, inviting people to understanding, offering knowledge to anyone who will listen. Later, in Kabbalistic thought, this evolved into the concept of Shekinah, the feminine presence of the divine that descended into the world and now dwells in exile among humanity. The Shekinah waits for the moment when all the scattered sparks will be gathered, when consciousness will reunite with its source, and the divine will be whole once more. Are you noticing the pattern? Different cultures, different languages, different time periods, but the same essential story, a feminine aspect of divine wisdom that descended or became scattered, now working through humanity toward restoration and wholeness. In Hindu tradition, we find Shakti, the divine feminine energy, without which even the highest masculine principle, Shiva, remains inactive and inert. Shakti is pure creative power, the force that moves through all things, the energy that brings potential into manifestation. The relationship between Shiva and Shakti mirrors the relationship between Sophia and the Logos, or between wisdom and understanding. Neither is complete without the other. Both are necessary for creation, for awakening, for the universe to know itself. Buddhism speaks of Prajna Paramita, the perfection of wisdom, often depicted as a feminine deity. She represents the direct intuitive insight that cuts through illusion and reveals the empty, luminous nature of all phenomena. Again, wisdom as a feminine principle, wisdom as the key to liberation from suffering and ignorance. Even in Christianity, before the texts were standardized and the Gnostic Gospels were suppressed, there were strong traditions about Sophia. The early church fathers wrote about her. Churches were dedicated to her. Hagia Sophia, Holy Wisdom. And then there's Mary Magdalene. In the Gnostic Gospels, particularly the Gospel of Mary and the Pistis Sophia, Magdalene isn't a repentant prostitute, as later tradition portrayed her. She's the disciple who understood Jesus' teachings most deeply. She's the one to whom the deepest mysteries were revealed. Many scholars now believe she was deliberately written out of prominence, because the early church was uncomfortable with a woman being portrayed as the wisest of the apostles. What if Magdalene was seen by early Gnostic Christians as an embodiment of Sophia herself? The divine wisdom taking human form, walking beside the Logos, the divine word. What if their relationship was meant to represent the sacred marriage, the reunification of wisdom and understanding? The church suppressed these texts. They buried them. They declared them heretical. But you can't bury truth forever. Those scrolls sat in the Egyptian desert for nearly 2,000 years, and then in 1945, a farmer digging for fertilizer cracked open a jar and found them. The timing is interesting, isn't it? Why did these texts resurface right when humanity was entering the atomic age, when we suddenly had the power to destroy ourselves? Maybe because it was time. Time for Sophia's voice to be heard again. Time for humanity to remember that wisdom isn't just nice to have, it's essential for survival. As you lie here, breathing slowly and deeply, consider the possibility that you're part of a pattern much larger and older than you imagined. Your spiritual searching isn't random. It's part of a cosmic process that's been unfolding for thousands of years, across every culture, in every time period. The feminine face of God keeps appearing, keeps calling, keeps inviting humanity to remember. She speaks through myth and art, through dreams and intuition, through the quiet voice of conscience that refuses to be silenced, no matter how loud the world gets. Coming up next, we'll explore one of the most controversial aspects of this entire teaching: the idea that Sophia was deliberately hidden, that her voice was systematically suppressed by institutions that feared the power of inner wisdom. We'll investigate who wanted to hide this knowledge and why it threatened them so deeply. But before we continue, I want to ask you something. Has a particular wisdom tradition or goddess figure resonated with you personally? Do you feel drawn to Isis, or Athena, or Mary Magdalene, or another embodiment of the divine feminine? Drop a comment and share. I'd love to know which face of Sophia speaks to your soul most clearly. Chapter 7. The Goddess They Tried to Erase. Now we come to a darker chapter in this story, but it's one that needs to be told. Because understanding why this teaching was suppressed helps us understand why it still matters today. When the Roman Empire officially adopted Christianity in the 4th century, something significant changed. What had begun as a diverse movement with many different interpretations and texts suddenly needed to become unified, standardized, official. The Emperor Constantine wanted one religion to help hold his empire together. That meant one doctrine, one set of approved texts, one official interpretation. Everything else had to go. The councils of bishops met and decided which writings would be included in the official Bible and which would be rejected. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Philip, the Pistis Sophia, dozens of texts that early Christians had read and valued were declared heretical. Why? What made these particular texts dangerous? The answer is found in what they taught. The Gnostic texts emphasized direct personal experience of the divine. They suggested that church authority wasn't necessary for salvation. They portrayed women, particularly Mary Magdalene, as spiritual equals and teachers, and they questioned whether the God of the Old Testament was the true ultimate divine source. Every single one of these ideas threatened institutional power. If people could access the divine directly, they didn't need priests. If women could be spiritual teachers, the male hierarchy was challenged. If scripture could be questioned, the basis of religious authority crumbled. So these texts were not just rejected, they were actively destroyed. Libraries were burned, teachers were killed. Possessing these writings became a crime punishable by death. For more than 1,500 years, the only people who knew about Sophia and the Gnostic teachings were those who studied the angry denunciations written by their opponents. Breathe deeply and let your body settle even more completely. This information might be stirring something in you. Anger, perhaps, at the loss of knowledge. Grief for the wisdom that was suppressed. That's a natural response. Let those feelings flow through you without holding on to them. But here's what's important to understand. Even though the texts were destroyed, the truth they contained couldn't be completely erased. It went underground. It survived in secret teachings passed from master to student. It was encoded in symbols and stories that seemed innocent on the surface, but carried hidden meanings for those who knew how to read them. The alchemists of medieval Europe, with their mysterious diagrams and cryptic formulas, weren't just trying to turn lead into gold. Many of them were Gnostics in disguise, using the language of chemistry to discuss spiritual transformation. When they wrote about the sacred marriage of the sun and moon, they meant the union of Sophia and the Logos. When they discussed the philosopher's stone, they meant the divine spark awakened within human consciousness. The Cathars in southern France, the Knights Templar, the Rosicrucians, various mystical movements throughout history carried fragments of this teaching forward, often at great personal risk. The Inquisition specifically targeted these groups, torturing and executing thousands of people whose crime was believing in inner light rather than external authority. Why such violence? Why such fear? Because these teachings truly were revolutionary. They suggested that every human being has direct access to the divine, that no institution, no priest, no scripture stands between you and the ultimate source of truth. That wisdom lives within, not above. This is spiritual democracy, and it terrified those whose power depended on being intermediaries between humanity and God. Even as organized religion suppressed the Gnostic texts, the experience they described kept happening. Mystics throughout history, many of them within traditional religions, had spontaneous awakening experiences that matched precisely what the Gnostic texts taught. They discovered the inner light. They experienced union with the divine. They realized that the kingdom of heaven was indeed within. Meister Eckhart, Teresa of Avila, John of the Cross, Rumi, Kabir, countless others across different traditions had experiences that aligned more with Gnostic teachings than with the official doctrines of their religions. And many of them were punished for it, declared heretical, their writings banned or burned. But truth has a way of persisting. It keeps emerging, generation after generation, person after person, because it's not based on belief or tradition. It's based on direct experience that's available to anyone willing to look within. The suppression of Sophia, the attempt to erase the divine feminine from spiritual teachings, had consequences that reached far beyond religion. It created an imbalance in how we think about ourselves and the world. Masculine qualities, reason, logic, authority, hierarchy, were elevated. Feminine qualities, intuition, empathy, wisdom, connection, were devalued. This imbalance played out in how we treat the earth, how we structure societies, how we relate to each other and ourselves. We built civilizations that conquer rather than cooperate, that exploit rather than nurture, that value power over wisdom. And where has that gotten us? To the edge of environmental collapse, to societies filled with material abundance but spiritual emptiness, to technologies that connect us superficially while we feel more isolated than ever. Maybe the return of Sophia, the re-emergence of these ancient texts and teachings, isn't an accident. Maybe it's exactly what's needed right now. A rebalancing, a remembering of the wisdom we tried to forget. As you lie here in the quiet darkness, feeling the rise and fall of your breath, consider that you're participating in this rebalancing just by listening, by being open to these ideas, by questioning the official narratives you inherited, by trusting your inner knowing. Coming up, we'll explore the plan of redemption, the Gnostic teaching about how Sophia's scattered light is being gathered, how consciousness is slowly awakening to itself, and what role you play in this cosmic process. And if you're feeling grateful that these teachings survived, that we can explore them freely now without fear of persecution, show your support. Hit that subscribe button. Ring the notification bell, because channels like this that explore suppressed wisdom depend on your engagement to reach others who need to hear this message. Chapter 8. The Sacred Marriage. When wisdom meets understanding. We've reached the heart of the teaching now, the part that transforms this from ancient history into living wisdom that applies to your life today. The Gnostics taught that Sophia's fall, while creating suffering and separation, also created the possibility for something that had never existed before. Evolution, growth, the journey from ignorance to knowledge, from separation to union, from sleep to awakening. The divine realm, the pleroma, existed in perfect harmony. But perfect harmony means nothing changes, nothing develops. It simply is, eternally the same, like a still pond with no ripples, beautiful but static. Sophia's descent into chaos introduced something new, the possibility of transformation. Consciousness could now experience itself evolving, learning, growing, returning to the source, not just as it left, but enriched by everything it experienced along the way. Think about your own life. Your most profound growth didn't come during easy times, did it? It came through challenge, through struggle, through times when you had to dig deep and discover resources you didn't know you had. Sophia's fall mirrors this. Descent into difficulty as the path to genuine wisdom. But the teaching doesn't stop with the fall. The entire cosmic drama has been building toward restoration, toward what the texts call the sacred marriage, or the hierogamos. Let your breathing slow even more. Let your body become so relaxed it almost seems to disappear, leaving just awareness, just presence, just the part of you that's listening and understanding at a level deeper than words. The sacred marriage refers to the reunion of Sophia with the Logos, wisdom with understanding, the feminine with the masculine, emotion with thought, intuition with logic. Not as opposites that cancel each other out, but as complements that complete each other. In the Gnostic mythology, when Sophia cried out from the darkness she had created, the Pleroma responded by sending the Logos, the divine word, the Christ consciousness. Not as a single historical person, though they believed Christ appeared in that form too, but as a principle, a frequency, a vibration of divine intelligence that could penetrate into matter. The Logos descended into the material world to find Sophia, to reunite with her, to help guide the scattered sparks of her light back to wholeness. This wasn't a rescue operation where a masculine savior swoops in to save a helpless feminine victim. It was more like two halves of a whole, separated by Sophia's solitary act of creation, now finding their way back to each other. And here's the crucial point. This reunion doesn't happen out there in cosmic realms beyond our reach. It happens in here, in human consciousness, in you. When your logical mind and your intuitive heart work together, that's the sacred marriage. When your thoughts and feelings are aligned, when your intentions and actions match, when you stop fighting yourself and become integrated, whole, that's Sophia and the Logos reuniting within you. Every person who achieves this inner union becomes, in effect, a Christ or a Buddha, or whatever term we want to use for an awakened being, someone through whom divine consciousness can flow freely, someone who embodies wisdom and understanding in equal measure. The Gnostic texts describe this process using alchemical imagery. The alchemist starts with base metal, which represents ordinary consciousness, identified with the body and ego. Through a series of operations involving heat, dissolution, purification, and recombination, the base metal is transformed into gold. Gold represents the awakened state, the philosopher's stone, the divine spark fully conscious of itself. But this gold isn't something added from outside. It's what was always there, hidden within the base metal, revealed through the alchemical process. Your spiritual journey is this process. Every challenge you face is the alchemist's fire. Every moment of self-reflection is the work of purification. Every insight, every breakthrough, every time you choose awareness over unconsciousness, you're transmuting base metal into gold. The texts promise that when this process is complete within enough individuals, something remarkable will happen collectively. The field of human consciousness will shift. What seems impossible now, like a society based on cooperation instead of competition, like leadership guided by wisdom instead of power, will become natural and obvious. This is the return of Sophia, not as an external event we passively wait for, but as an internal transformation we actively participate in. She returns through us, as us. When we allow the divine feminine qualities of intuition, compassion, and wisdom to balance and guide the masculine qualities of logic, action, and structure. Many people sense this shift already happening. The rise of interest in meditation, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, ecological awareness, social justice, all of these represent the re-emergence of Sophia's influence. The pendulum swinging back toward balance after centuries of extreme masculine dominance. But the archons, those forces that benefit from ignorance and separation, don't give up easily. The texts warn that as Sophia's light grows stronger, the archons will increase their efforts to distract, confuse, and divide. This explains why, even as consciousness is rising globally, we also see increasing chaos, polarization, and fear. It's the last gasp of a dying paradigm. Darkness always intensifies just before dawn. The old world built on separation is collapsing, and the new world built on connection is being born. You're living through this transition right now, and your choices matter. Every time you choose awareness, you cast a vote for the new world. Every time you choose compassion over judgment, wisdom over reactivity, unity over separation, you strengthen Sophia's presence in the collective field. You're not just living your personal life. You're participating in the most important project in the history of consciousness. The awakening of the divine trapped in matter, the gathering of scattered light, the return of the goddess. Coming up next, we'll explore the forces that resist this awakening. The invisible systems, both internal and external, that the Gnostics called archons. We'll learn to recognize how they operate and how to reclaim our power from them. But first, take a moment to appreciate yourself for being here, for listening, for being open to ideas that challenge comfortable assumptions. That openness is itself an expression of Sophia's wisdom working through you. If you want to support this work and help spread these teachings to others, the simplest way is to hit that like button and share this video with someone who's searching for deeper truth. Chapter 9. The Invisible Rulers of Our World. Let's talk about something that might make you uncomfortable, but it's essential for understanding both the Gnostic teaching and your own experience of life. The archons, the rulers. The invisible forces that the ancient texts claim govern the material world and work tirelessly to keep humanity asleep. Now, before your mind jumps to conspiracy theories or demon possession, understand that the Gnostic concept of archons is more sophisticated than that. These aren't necessarily literal entities, though some Gnostics did see them that way. They're better understood as patterns, systems, psychological mechanisms, autonomous forces that operate through us when we're unconscious. The texts describe the archons as beings created by Yaldabaoth to administer the material universe. Each archon rules over a different planetary sphere and represents a different form of limitation or ignorance. They're described as having power over the body, over circumstances, over external reality, but crucially, they have no power over the divine spark within you. They can only affect you if you forget what you are. If you identify completely with your body, your thoughts, your circumstances, then yes, the archons rule your life. But the moment you remember your true nature, the moment you step back and observe rather than being swept along, Their power dissolves like darkness before light. Let your mind relax as we explore this. You don't need to believe in archons as literal beings, but pay attention to whether the patterns they represent show up in your actual experience. The ancient texts list different archons with names that represent their function. There's an archon of fear, one of desire, one of ignorance, one of pride, of anger, of jealousy. Together, they create what the Gnostics called the bondage of fate. In modern psychological language, we might call these forces complexes, conditioning, unconscious patterns, social programming, ways of thinking and being that operate automatically, beneath awareness, controlling behavior without our conscious consent. Think about your own life. How often do you react before you realize you're reacting? How often does fear make decisions for you? How often does the desire for approval shape your choices? How often does anger or pride or jealousy take control before you even notice it's happening? Those moments, the Gnostics would say, are when the archons rule. Not because external demons possess you, but because you've temporarily forgotten yourself, forgotten the witnessing awareness that exists beyond all these psychological forces. The texts say the archons also work through social systems, religious institutions that replace direct experience with dogma, economic structures that keep people trapped in survival mode with no energy for inner development, political systems that divide people and keep them fighting each other instead of questioning the system itself, educational structures that train people to memorize and obey rather than think critically and question. Any system that keeps attention focused outward, that promotes unconsciousness, that makes people forget their divine nature, serves the function of the archons, whether intentionally or not. This is where the teaching gets controversial. The Gnostics suggested that some religious authorities actively served the archons by claiming to represent the true God, while actually representing Yaldabaoth, the false god of this world. They kept people in fear and guilt, dependent on external authority, never discovering the divine light within. You can see why this teaching was suppressed. It essentially said, don't trust institutions. Don't give your power to external authorities. Look within. Find your own direct connection to the divine. That's a dangerous message if you're an institution dependent on people trusting you and giving you their power. But here's what's important. The Gnostic teaching isn't about fighting the archons. That just gives them energy. It's about becoming conscious. Awareness itself is the antidote. Light doesn't battle darkness. Light simply is, and wherever it shines, darkness disappears. When you catch yourself in a reactive pattern and pause, when you feel fear rising and choose to observe it rather than being swept away by it, when you notice social conditioning trying to control your thinking and you question it, in those moments, you're free of the archons. Not because you defeated them, but because you stepped into a level of consciousness where they simply don't operate. Carl Jung studied the Gnostic texts intensely and recognized the archons as descriptions of what he called autonomous complexes, fragments of the psyche that seem to have their own agenda, their own energy, their own will. He developed therapeutic techniques to help people recognize these forces, withdraw identification from them, and integrate their energy consciously. In Buddhist terms, the archons are like the demons that Mara sent to distract Buddha under the Bodhi tree. They represent everything that pulls consciousness away from awakening: fear, desire, doubt, restlessness. And Buddha defeated them not by fighting, but by remaining aware, simply seeing them for what they were. This is your power too. You don't need to battle your fears, your desires, your conditioning. You just need to see them clearly. Conscious observation transforms unconscious patterns. As you lie here, deeply relaxed, notice that even now, there might be subtle archonic influences at work. A little voice saying, "This is all nonsense. You should stop listening." Or maybe, "This is fascinating, but it doesn't apply to you personally. You can listen without changing anything." Or perhaps, "You're too tired. You can finish this tomorrow." Those voices aren't you. They're patterns trying to maintain themselves, systems trying to prevent awakening. Just notice them, smile at them, thank them for trying to protect you, and keep listening anyway. The texts promise that as more people wake up, as more divine sparks remember their true nature, the archons lose power in the collective field. What once seemed solid and unchangeable begins to shift. Systems that depended on unconsciousness start to crumble, and new possibilities emerge that were literally unthinkable before. Maybe that's what we're seeing in the world right now. Old systems breaking down, old certainties dissolving, old authorities losing credibility. It feels chaotic because it is chaotic. But perhaps it's the chaos that precedes transformation, the darkness before dawn. Coming up next, we'll explore the signs that Sophia is returning, that the goddess is awakening in both the collective consciousness and potentially in your own experience. We'll look at what the ancient texts predicted and how those predictions might be manifesting in the modern world. If you're recognizing archonic patterns in your own life, in the systems around you, leave a comment. Share what you're seeing. Your insight might help someone else recognize patterns they've been unconscious of. We're all in this together, all part of the collective awakening. Chapter 10: Signs of Awakening in the Modern Age. The Gnostic texts, particularly the Pistis Sophia, describe what would happen when the time of redemption approached. When Sophia began her ascent back to the Pleroma, gathering her scattered light from across the material world, they predicted specific signs. And when you look at our current moment in history through the lens of these ancient teachings, the parallels are striking. Let your breath flow naturally as we explore this. Your conscious mind can drift, but some part of you will hear what needs to be heard. The first sign they described was a time of confusion and chaos, when old structures would break down and old certainties would dissolve. People would lose faith in institutions that had guided them for centuries. Authority would be questioned. Long accepted truths would be challenged. Sound familiar? We're living through exactly this moment. Trust in governments, religions, media, corporations, all the traditional sources of authority has declined dramatically. What once seemed permanent now seems fragile. What once seemed certain now seems questionable. The Gnostics would say this isn't a sign of collapse, but of transformation. The false structures built on ignorance must dissolve before true wisdom can emerge. It's uncomfortable, even frightening, but necessary. The second sign they predicted was the return of the divine feminine, not in a literal sense necessarily, but as a rebalancing of energy, a re-emergence of qualities that had been suppressed and devalued. Again, look around. The rise of movements for gender equality, the growing interest in emotional intelligence, the shift from hierarchical leadership to collaborative models, the emphasis on sustainability and care for the earth rather than domination and exploitation. All of these represent the return of feminine principles to balance the extreme masculine energy that has dominated for millennia. Sophia's voice is being heard again. Her wisdom is re-emerging. Her influence is growing in human consciousness. The third sign was what they called the time of revealing. Hidden things would be brought to light. Secret knowledge would be rediscovered. Truths that had been buried would resurface. The discovery of the Nag Hammadi texts themselves in 1945 is a perfect example. Buried for nearly 2,000 years, they emerged exactly when humanity needed them, when we had developed the tools of archaeology and translation to understand them, and the freedom of thought to explore them without persecution. But it's not just ancient texts. We're living in the most transparent time in human history. Information that once would have remained hidden is now exposed. Whistleblowers reveal secrets. The internet allows knowledge to spread faster than authorities can suppress it. What was done in darkness is coming to light. The fourth sign they described was the awakening of individuals to their divine nature. More and more people would have spontaneous experiences of enlightenment, of expanded consciousness, of direct connection with the divine. They would remember who they really are. The explosion of interest in meditation, mindfulness, psychedelics, near-death experiences, and other consciousness-expanding practices suggests this is happening. Millions of people are reporting experiences that align precisely with what the Gnostic texts describe. The realization that consciousness is fundamental, that separation is illusion, that they are divine awareness temporarily experiencing human form. This isn't New Age fantasy. Neuroscientists, physicists, and philosophers are increasingly arriving at conclusions that ancient mystics reached thousands of years ago. Consciousness might not be produced by the brain, but rather received by it, like a radio tuning into a signal. Reality at the quantum level behaves more like mind than matter. The observer affects what is observed. Science is catching up to mysticism. Sophia is reuniting with Logos. Wisdom and understanding are coming back together after centuries of separation. The texts also warned that the archons would resist this awakening intensely. As more people wake up, the forces that benefit from unconsciousness would amplify fear, increase division, create distractions, anything to prevent the shift from occurring. This too is visible. Despite unprecedented access to information, misinformation spreads faster than ever. Despite technology that could bring us together, polarization increases. Despite material abundance, anxiety and depression reach epidemic levels. The noise gets louder and louder, perhaps because the signal is getting stronger. It's the last desperate effort of a dying paradigm to maintain control. But the texts promise it will fail, not through violent revolution, but through consciousness evolution. You can't fight light. Darkness simply disappears when enough light is present. As you lie here in the quiet, in the stillness, you might be feeling something stirring, a recognition, a remembering, a sense that you're part of something much larger than your individual life, that your awakening contributes to a collective shift that's been building for thousands of years. Trust that feeling. That's not imagination. That's Sophia's spark within you, responding to her call, beginning the journey home. The texts describe this process as inevitable. The scattered light will be gathered. Consciousness will awaken to itself. The divine will remember its own nature. It's not a matter of if, but when. And every individual who chooses awareness, who turns inward, who does the work of transformation, accelerates the collective process. You matter more than you know. Your healing contributes to the healing of the whole. Your awakening helps others awaken. Your light illuminates the path for those still walking in darkness. The return of Sophia isn't something we passively wait for. It's something we actively participate in. She returns through us, as us, when we embody her qualities of wisdom, compassion, intuition, and connection. Coming up next, we'll explore the practical process, the alchemy that happens inside human consciousness when someone chooses to wake up. We'll discuss the stages of transformation and how to navigate them. This isn't theory anymore. This is a map for your own journey. And if you're feeling called to this path of awakening, I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel. Hit that bell notification. We're creating a community of seekers, of people who refuse to sleepwalk through life, who are committed to remembering who they really are. Your presence strengthens the field for everyone. Chapter 11. The alchemy happening inside you. Right now. Everything we've discussed so far, the cosmic drama of Sophia's fall and return, isn't just ancient mythology or abstract philosophy. It's a map of the transformation that can happen, that perhaps is already happening inside your own consciousness right now. The Gnostics were extremely practical. They weren't interested in beliefs. They wanted direct experience, actual transformation. And they developed a precise understanding of the stages of awakening, the process by which a human being remembers their divine nature. Let yourself relax even more deeply now. This isn't information you need to memorize. It's wisdom you need to absorb at a deeper level. Let it settle into you like rain soaking into earth. The first stage is called the awakening of disturbance. It usually begins with a crisis, a moment when the life you've been living stops working. Maybe it's loss, illness, failure, betrayal, or just a growing sense of emptiness that nothing external can fill. This disturbance is actually a gift, though it doesn't feel that way at the time. It's Sophia's spark within you starting to stir, to push against the limitations of your current identity. It's the divine becoming uncomfortable with the prison of the false self. The Gnostics called this kenosis, a Greek word meaning emptying. Your old certainties empty out. Your familiar identity starts to dissolve. It feels like loss, like death even, but it's creating space for something new to emerge. If you're going through something like this right now, if life has recently fallen apart or stopped making sense, Understand that you're not being punished. You're being initiated. The universe is actually supporting your awakening, even though the process is uncomfortable. The second stage is purification. This is where you become aware of all the patterns, beliefs, and conditioning that have been running your life unconsciously. The archonic influences we discussed earlier become visible. You start to see how fear has been making decisions, how desire has been controlling behavior, how conditioning from family and culture has been shaping your thoughts. This seeing is itself transformative. The texts describe it as fire, the alchemist's flame that burns away impurities. You're not trying to destroy or fight these patterns. You're simply bringing them into conscious awareness, and that awareness transforms them. Many spiritual traditions have practices for this stage. Meditation to observe the mind without identification, shadow work to integrate rejected parts of yourself, contemplation to examine beliefs and assumptions. All of these are tools for purification, for making the unconscious conscious. The third stage is integration, or marriage. This is where the opposites within you start to reconcile and work together. The masculine and feminine, the rational mind and the intuitive heart, the individual ego and the universal self, they stop fighting each other and begin to cooperate. You discover that you don't have to choose between being spiritual and being practical, between caring for yourself and caring for others, between accepting what is and working for change. These apparent contradictions are resolved at a higher level of consciousness, where both sides are recognized as necessary. This is the internal version of the sacred marriage we discussed earlier. Sophia and Logos, wisdom and understanding, reuniting within you. When this happens, you become whole in a new way, integrated, centered, able to act in the world from a place of peace rather than conflict. The fourth stage is called illumination or gnosis. This is direct knowledge, unmediated experience of your divine nature. It's not a belief that you're spiritual. It's a recognition, a remembering of what you've always been. The texts describe this as waking up from a dream. Suddenly you realize that everything you thought was solid and real was actually mind, actually consciousness, taking temporary form. You are not a small self trapped in a body. You are infinite awareness playing at being finite, the cosmos experiencing itself through this particular form. This realization is both profound and surprisingly ordinary. It doesn't come with fireworks and visions necessarily, though it can. Often it's more subtle, a quiet knowing, a shift in the background of experience where suddenly everything looks the same but feels completely different. And here's what's important. This isn't a permanent state you achieve once and then maintain forever. It's more like a frequency you learn to tune into. You have the experience, then you forget, then you remember again, then you forget. Gradually, over time, you spend more and more time in remembrance and less in forgetfulness. The final stage is called service or restoration. Once you've remembered who you are, once you've experienced your divine nature directly, something changes. You can't go back to living just for yourself. You naturally begin to serve the awakening of others, not from obligation or duty, but because you recognize that there are no others, not ultimately. Every soul is Sophia's light. Helping others awaken is helping yourself awaken. Healing the world is healing your own consciousness. Service becomes natural, joyful, inevitable. This entire process, from disturbance through purification, integration, illumination, and service, is how Sophia gathers her scattered light. Each person who completes this journey becomes, in a sense, a cell in her restored body. The divine feminine, divine wisdom, is quite literally being reconstructed through human awakening. And you're part of this. Right now, as you lie here listening, breath flowing naturally, body deeply relaxed, you're participating in something ancient and enormous. The work you do on yourself, the consciousness you develop, the wisdom you embody, it all contributes to the collective transformation. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be enlightened. You just need to be committed to waking up, to becoming more conscious, to living with more awareness. That commitment is enough. The process will unfold naturally from there. The texts promise that when enough individuals complete this inner alchemy, the collective field will shift. Society will reorganize around different principles. What now seems impossible, communities based on cooperation instead of competition, leadership guided by wisdom instead of power, economies designed for well-being instead of profit. All of this will become natural and obvious. We're building a new world from the inside out, not through political revolution, though external changes will follow, through consciousness evolution, through remembering who we really are, through embodying divine wisdom in human form. Coming up in our final chapter, we'll explore what the complete return of Sophia might look like. The new eon, the awakened world, what the texts call the restoration of the pleroma, and we'll discuss your specific role in bringing this vision into reality. Before we continue, take a moment to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Has something shifted as you've been listening? That's the real work happening, not in your intellect, but in your being. If you feel moved to support this channel and help spread these teachings, the like button is right there. Your engagement literally helps more seekers find this wisdom. Chapter 12. The Future. The ancients saw coming. We've reached the final chapter of our journey, but in many ways, this is where the real story begins. Because everything we've discussed has been leading to this moment, to the question of what happens when Sophia fully returns, when divine wisdom is restored, when consciousness awakens completely. The Gnostic texts describe this as the new aeon, a fundamental shift in how reality operates. Not the end of the world, but the transformation of it. Not destruction, but transfiguration. Let your breathing slow even more. Let yourself sink into a state deeper than sleep, but more aware than waking. Because what you're about to hear isn't just prediction, it's possibility, it's invitation. The texts say that when the last fragment of Sophia's light is awakened, when every divine spark remembers its source, the separation between matter and spirit will dissolve. Not that matter will disappear, but that it will be recognized for what it truly is. Consciousness taking form, light moving at a slower vibration, the divine exploring itself through infinite variety. In this new state of collective awareness, the illusions that cause suffering will simply stop making sense. The idea that we're separate individuals competing for limited resources will be seen as obviously false, like thinking the waves are separate from the ocean. We'll recognize that we're all expressions of one consciousness, all cells in one body. Imagine a society organized around that recognition, where harming another is understood as harming yourself, where helping another is helping yourself, where the well-being of the whole is naturally prioritized because the whole and the individual are recognized as one. This isn't utopian fantasy. It's the inevitable result of awakened consciousness. Competition and conflict only make sense when you believe in separation. Unity and cooperation emerge naturally when you experience connection directly. The texts describe this state using beautiful metaphors. They say the world will become transparent, not invisible, but clear. Every form, from a stone to a star to a human being, will be seen as what it really is. Consciousness taking temporary shape, the divine playing in material form. Death will lose its terror because it will be understood as transformation rather than ending. You can't destroy consciousness. You can only change its form. What we call death is like a wave returning to the ocean. Nothing is lost. Everything is transformed. The texts say that in this new age, the distinction between inner and outer will fade. What you think and what you experience will be recognized as intimately connected. Consciousness won't be seen as a product of matter, but as the ground from which matter arises. Science and spirituality, which split apart centuries ago, will reunite. Not because science becomes less rigorous, but because it expands to include consciousness as fundamental. Researchers are already moving in this direction. Quantum mechanics, neuroscience, systems theory, all pointing toward the same conclusion. Mind is primary. When this shift happens fully, technology will evolve in radically different directions. Instead of using machines to dominate nature, we'll develop tools that work with natural systems, that enhance consciousness, that support the well-being of all life. The intelligence we've been training into computers might help us remember the intelligence we've forgotten in ourselves. The texts suggest that psychic abilities we now consider supernatural will become natural and common, not because we develop new powers, but because we remove the blocks to abilities we already have. Telepathy, intuition, precognition, healing through intention. These aren't violations of natural law. They're natural expressions of consciousness that we've been conditioned to ignore and deny. Education will transform completely. Instead of filling children's minds with information, we'll help them discover the wisdom that's already within them. Instead of training people to fit into existing systems, we'll support the unique gifts each person came to offer. The texts promise that Sophia restored will reign not through power, but through wisdom. Leadership will naturally fall to those who have done the inner work, who have integrated their shadows, who serve the whole rather than their own egos. Conflicts won't disappear, but they'll be approached differently. Not through domination and submission, but through understanding and creative synthesis. When both sides can see the validity in each perspective, solutions emerge that honor all parties. This is what the Gnostic called the restoration of the pleroma. The material world doesn't vanish. It's reintegrated into conscious awareness. The separation between heaven and earth dissolves. As above, so below becomes direct experience rather than cryptic saying. Now here's the crucial part. This isn't something that happens to us. It's something that happens through us. The new aeon emerges as individual consciousness transforms, one person at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of awareness at a time. You're not waiting for Sophia to return. You're the vehicle of her return. Your awakening is her awakening. Your wisdom is her wisdom remembering itself. Your compassion is her love flowing through human form. Every time you choose consciousness over unconsciousness, awareness over reaction, unity over separation, you're casting a vote for the new world. You're adding your light to the collective field. You're helping to tip the balance. The texts suggest we're in the transition period right now. The old world is dying. The new world is being born. It's messy and chaotic because both exist simultaneously. You can see evidence of both depending on where you look. Look at systems of control, corruption, inequality, environmental destruction, and you see the old world in its death throes. Look at communities of awakening, innovations in consciousness, the rising awareness of interconnection, and you see the new world emerging. Which one you feed with your attention, energy, and choices determines which one grows stronger in your experience and in the collective field. As you lie here, deeply relaxed, almost asleep, but still aware, you might feel something stirring in your heart. A knowing, a remembering, a sense of purpose that goes beyond your personal life. Trust that. You didn't stumble onto this teaching by accident. You're here because some part of you, the eternal part, has been calling you to wake up, to remember, to play your part in the cosmic drama of Sophia's return. You don't need to know exactly what that means yet. You don't need a detailed plan. You just need to say yes. Yes to consciousness. Yes to awakening. Yes to being an instrument of divine wisdom in whatever way is uniquely yours. The texts end with a promise. When the work is complete, when all the scattered light has been gathered, when consciousness fully awakens to itself, there will be a moment of recognition so profound, so total, so overwhelming, that every moment of suffering, every bit of struggle, every dark night will be understood as absolutely necessary and worth it. The journey from unity through separation back to unity, but now enriched by everything learned along the way, will be seen as the greatest story ever told. And you, your life, your struggles, your awakening, will be recognized as an essential chapter in that story. Sophia fell so that consciousness could experience growth. You incarnated so that Sophia could remember herself through you. It's the same story, playing out across billions of lives, across thousands of years, all leading to this moment when the divine awakens as the human and the human awakens as the divine. Sleep now, if you need to. Let your conscious mind drift into dreams, but know that something deeper than your conscious mind has heard these words and will continue the work of awakening while you rest. Closing reflection, your part in the story. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want to speak directly to you, to whatever in you has been listening at the deepest level. The story of Sophia isn't ancient history. It's happening right now. You're living in the moment when divine wisdom is returning to the world, gathering her scattered light, awakening in human consciousness. And you're not just witnessing this. You're participating in it. Your life, your challenges, your questions, your growth, all of it is part of the cosmic process of remembrance. When you feel that strange homesickness for a place you've never been, that's Sophia's spark in you, remembering the pleroma. When you question authority and refuse to accept easy answers, that's divine wisdom asserting itself against archonic control. When you choose compassion over judgment, consciousness over reaction, you're helping to restore the balance that was lost when Sophia fell. You matter more than you've been taught to believe. The systems of this world want you to think you're small, insignificant, powerless. But the ancient texts tell a different story. They say you carry within you a fragment of the divine, a spark of the eternal, a piece of the goddess herself. And when that spark fully awakens, when you remember who you really are, you become a beacon for others. Your light helps them find their own light. Your awakening supports their awakening. Consciousness is contagious. This is why channels like this exist. Not to give you new beliefs to adopt, but to remind you of what you already know in your deepest heart. To help you hear Sophia's voice, calling through the noise of the world. To support you on the path of remembrance. If this teaching has resonated with you, if something in you has recognized truth in these words, I encourage you to take action. First, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. This journey doesn't end with one video. There are layers upon layers of wisdom to explore, practices to learn, insights to discover. Second, engage with this community. Leave comments, share your experiences, ask questions. We're all fragments of Sophia's light trying to find our way home. Your voice, your story, your insights matter. Someone else needs to hear exactly what you have to say. Third, share this teaching with others who are searching. Not to convert anyone or force ideas on them, but to offer a map to those who are already on the journey and just need to know they're not alone. Finally, and most importantly, take this wisdom into your daily life. Don't just listen. Practice. Meditate. Observe your mind. Question your conditioning. Choose awareness moment by moment. The work happens not in grand spiritual experiences, but in the ordinary moments when you choose consciousness over unconsciousness. The Gnostic path isn't about believing harder, it's about waking up more completely. It's about direct experience of your divine nature, and that experience is available right now, not in some distant future or far-off heaven, but here, in this moment, in your own awareness. As you drift off to sleep, or if you're going about your day after listening, carry this thought with you. You are Sophia's light taking human form. You are divine wisdom, exploring itself through your unique perspective. You are essential to the cosmic story of fall and restoration. Your awakening matters. Your choices matter. Your light matters. The universe needs you to remember who you are. Sophia needs you to remember who you are. Because you are her, and she is you. And the journey home is the journey to your own deepest self. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave enough to explore ideas that challenge everything you've been taught. That courage is itself a sign that Sophia's spark is alive and strong within you. May you rest well, may you dream deep, and may you wake with the knowing that you are divine, you are loved, and you are exactly where you need to be on your journey home. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, keep awakening. The goddess is returning, and she's returning through you. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if it served you. And remember, you're not alone on this path. We're all in this together, all fragments of one light, all finding our way home. Sweet dreams, seeker. The light within you recognizes the light within me.